I think we're going to move over to the AFC West, and
AFC West.
and then I think we're going to move from west to east. Is how we decided to go this route. And so we're going to start with the LA Chargers. And I have to keep saying that LA Chargers. I'm going to mess it up.
LA Chargers.
Many times, I'm sure, as we do this. But
yeah, the LA Rams sounds more natural because they once at least were there.
right.
I guess technically the Chargers spent 1 year in Los Angeles before they moved to San Diego, but
and I don't remember that as being a thing before, right? So
it was I think in the early '60s in the AFL, and we were
neither
of us were alive.
No.
But the LA Chargers have a new star, are guaranteed to have a new starting quarterback.
Absolutely right. With Rivers moving to Indy.
Indianapolis.
So they have 3 quarterbacks on their roster, none of which were in LA last year.
I believe Taylor was back up to Rivers last year, Tyrod Taylor, but I don't think he played. Maybe he was. I think he was there. Why don't you talk a little about Tyrod Taylor? I'm going to look.
All right. So likely the starter, seemingly, I would assume, right now at least, Tyrod Taylor. This is his 10th year in the NFL.
Yeah, it seems crazy. He didn't play. He was drafted by Baltimore and didn't play at all, really. He did play
4 seasons in Baltimore, 3 seasons in Buffalo.
Then a little bit of Cleveland, and then last year with the Chargers. He did complete 4 passes out of 6 attempts last year in, I guess, garbage time for the Chargers. So he did play a little bit last year. But, yeah, he was a serviceable starter from 2015 to 2017 in Buffalo. Never great. One of the things, I guess, that the coaching staff for the Chargers might like about Taylor, and you'll maybe hear this about him, is that he does not turn the ball over like Phillip Rivers does. In 46 career games as a starter, he has 54 touchdown passes, only 20 interceptions. So, that's something I think that the Chargers last year thought they could be in more games if Rivers were a little bit less careless, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but he turned the ball over quite a bit. Again, the Chiefs, remember the second game against the Chiefs, or the first game against the Chiefs in Mexico City, the game that Sorensen sealed with the interception. He threw, I think, 4 interceptions that game. So he was prone to turning the ball over Rivers. Taylor, it seems like, at least in his career in Buffalo, was not so much.
One interesting thing, though, about Rivers leaving, though, I think it actually, made an impact on the population of LA then, right?
Losing about 10 or 11 people. I guess his family lived in San Diego, though, didn't they? I don't know.
Right.
Are they moving? Maybe they lived in, well, he's Southern. Rivers went to NC State. I'm not sure where his
family. They had to have at least temporary living in LA, right?
He's Catholic with a large family.
Right. Where, I mean, those bolo tie sales in LA probably dropped a lot, though, I would think, too, right?
They are out west, but yeah, it's not that kind of west, really, in Los Angeles.
But he always wears the bolo tie, right? So.
Yeah, it's true. Rivers is from Alabama.
Yeah.
And as I said, he went to NC State as a player. And, he was the starting quarterback in San Diego and then Los Angeles for more than 16 years, I believe. So, it's a new era. And so Taylor is kind of brought in, it seems like, at best, to be a caretaker, because we know who
right, number 6 draft pick from this most recent draft of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, Justin Herbert picked out of Oregon. And Taylor, again, it might be a similar situation. Taylor was also the starter for Cleveland in 2018. He was pushed out of Buffalo. I think, again, because I don't know if he was welcome or just wanted to be a free agent. I can't remember the story, but they brought in Josh Allen. They're going to bring Josh Allen in, but Baker Mayfield, of course, was brought in to Cleveland, and after a few games where Cleveland did not do very well, again, that was under Hugh Jackson. He was bumped in favor of Baker Mayfield. So do you think that could be a similar situation here where he gets a start a few games and then just Herbert, number 6 pick overall out of Oregon. At one point, Herbert was believed, I believe, to be going to be the first quarterback taken,
Right.
probably before the season started, or maybe before the previous season started. I was a little bit surprised he stayed for his senior year, but especially once Tua got hurt. I don't think anybody saw the Joe Burrow ascent, but Herbert was, I think, considered to be a very solid NFL first-round pick for a while now. He was a good player at Oregon. Oregon, a big-time program. His team went 12-2 last year. He had over 3,400 yards passing, almost 67% completion percentage, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Very good year, very good stats in college. Tall guy, smart guy. He was an academic All-American at Oregon. 39 on the Wonderlic, pretty high score for quarterback. So the one question a lot of people had with Herbert was, again, was he seemed a little bit aloof in his interviews. He's not maybe a rah type of guy, and some coaches really like that. Some coaches don't care quite as much about that, but which maybe soured him on some of the teams soured on Herbert. But
I would think from a not Chargers fan perspective, not disliking the Chargers, but as a Chiefs fan, I was exhausted watching Rivers cry constantly. And as long as the quarterback, whoever replaces him, doesn't do that as much, I'm going to be fine with them.
I think we're not in danger of that happening. Rivers was very emotional. Again, I think
so much complaining, though. All of the complaining. Officials to his own coaching staff, just enough.
Worst day ever.
Play the game.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a question of when, not if, Herbert becomes the starter. This is probably our first one where we're really not sure what's going to happen. And we'll draft a guy.
And I think we'll have to pick both quarterbacks, how many starts each of them get in this case, right?
Well, you could maybe think if Taylor is solid, maybe he holds the job the whole year. Who knows?
So there's a huge variation as to what the possibilities are here. And it has nothing to do with injury. It's going to be entirely to do with when is Herbert ready, right?
When is Herbert ready? Also, yeah,
if Herbert is ready, is he actually ready, right?
Yeah, and is Taylor doing a good job? Again, if Taylor is having a strong year, maybe just
finishes the year and lets Herbert develop for a year without having to risk the injury, right?
Yeah, maybe it's an Alex Smith situation where you play him a year, and then if you want to trade him or have him leave, you have a guy who's going to absorb and be there. So, but I think I think Taylor probably, again, maybe if there were a regular preseason, it's possible Herbert could beat out Taylor as
right.
But without that, I would say they're going to keep Taylor in at least for a few games.
Less likely so, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a third quarterback in the mix, probably the best name on the list, Easton Stick.
Easton Stick out of North Dakota State, the successor to Carson Wentz as the North Dakota State quarterback, winner of multiple national championships as both the backup to Wentz and the starter at North Dakota State. North Dakota State has won 8 of the last 9 football championship series, national championships.
That's impressive.
Bison under 3 different coaches. The first guy, he's now the coach at Wyoming. The next second guy went to K-State, and now that's the third guy who's the coach. But 5th round pick last year, Easton Stick. So 5th rounder, you're not necessarily thinking he's going to be the starter, but you're hoping maybe he can develop into something like that.
He's a little bit older than a typical second-year player, too. Already 24.
He's 24. He redshirted at least 1 year at North Dakota State. So Justin Herbert's only 22. Tyrod Taylor is 30, almost be 31 when the season starts. So he's been around, even though he hasn't really been a starter for a long time. He's been around for a while.
Doesn't necessarily have the mileage of a 10-year starter, right? So
that's true. And it seems like if you want Herbert to start at some point, Taylor would be a very good backup.
But maybe a good player to help ease him into it too.
That's true too. And so it's and I think, as we said, both of these, at least according to their college production, both of these players are good at avoiding turnovers, interceptions. I'm not exactly sure about Stick. Although he was 49-3 as a starter at North Dakota State, but I think, he's certainly the third quarterback here. Unless,
so how do you have the depth chart then starting to start the season? So this is what I think we're trying to aim for, right? Was leading into game one of the season. What do you think the depth is going to be?
Leading into game one, I think it's got to be Taylor to start, then
Herbert,
then Stick.
Do you think Stick is on the roster to start the year or on the practice squad?
I think they'll try to keep him on the practice squad if they can.
Yeah.
I don't think he's wrong.
I'm
not exactly sure of all the rules with the practice squad versus active roster and stuff. What's going to have to be this year, but
yeah.
What's your opinion?
My guess would be practice squad. I think they should be pretty confident that one of those two guys would be able to play most of the season before they'd have to look elsewhere if they needed to.
Yeah, if they keep three on the roster, I guess they might keep Stick on the roster.
Right, exactly.
But it's got.
All right. So then the big like more difficult question then for this one is how many starts probably does each guy get then for the Taylor and Herbert?
Taylor Herbert. I'm gonna say Taylor starts 8 games, not necessarily 8 games in a row.
Right. Not necessarily the first 8.
Yeah, not necessarily the first 8. I'm saying he might go 6 games, and then they put Herbert in. He might not prove himself to be terribly ready, and then they might go back to Taylor. So I'm going to say 8 games for each Tyrod and Herbert. I don't think Stick will get any because I think there's, and I think the likelihood of both quarterbacks getting hurt is not terribly likely.
Yeah. I think I would go pretty close to that. I think they probably will hand the reins over a little earlier, maybe. So I'm going to say maybe 6 games for Tyrod Taylor, and then 10 for Herbert then to end the season.
I could see that. I could see it reversed. I could also see Taylor playing the whole thing. I could see Taylor getting bumped out early. This is. I think a lot of it depends on what they think of Herbert.
Right, least predictable of the quarterback races, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe
Denver, maybe too. Yes.
Denver, maybe Miami with Tua and Fitzpatrick and Rosen as a third option, wild card. But I'd say of AFC West, I would say this is the least predictable by far.
And then next up, then
it's in decent shape though, because I think they have an up-and-coming guy, and they have a guy who is at least a capable backup.
Yeah, but this is not going to be a very good year for them, I don't think.
No, but they still have a pretty deep roster, and
be like their expected floor. They shouldn't feel like they're going to be like in a long decline before they come out of it, right? This should be like the beginning of what's coming next. Is how they they should at least view this season, I think, right?
I think best case scenario for them would be like, again, it's a little different with what happened to San Francisco because Garoppolo got hurt, but San Francisco was 4-12 in 2018. They got then they got to be able to draft Nick Bosa and really turn that high draft pick into somebody that could really help them become a solid playoff team, Super Bowl contender.
And I don't think they were like looking to become a Super Bowl team that first year.
No, but I think the Chargers might think, if we're going to have maybe a 4-12 season, but we can get a high draft pick that can help us out again.
And that's what they should expect, though, is something like a 4-12 season.
I don't think that's.
The Chiefs are going to be pretty good.
Although they won't have to play as many quote road games this year, going to have a new stadium, but also they won't have the opposing fans fill up their home stadium. So it seemed like they were on the road every game last year.
Why do you think that will be different?
Well, they won't have people booing them at every game, whereas
Why do you think
silence.
that's different?
I think silence might help the Chargers. They tended to be better a road team than a home team. And
They're always a road team, though, right? I mean, I don't know that it makes any difference, though, right? I mean, I don't think LA has really embraced them as their team yet.
Clearly, yeah, I don't think they've embraced the Rams somewhat.
Before they may have to win. They may have to make a playoff run before
that's true.
They're embraced. So I mean, I don't know why this would be any different this season.
That's true.
Even if they have their own seating, I don't see what the difference is.
I just think nobody's going to come to their games to boo them, and they'll like that better.
Do you think it was Phillip Rivers related that the booing was, or
no? It's because they didn't have any fans, and then the Chiefs fans and the Broncos fans all came and filled up the soccer stadium, and they aren't going to be able to do that this year because
they only had like 14,000 seats or something, though, right? And
but still,
yeah.
I think it helps. I think it might help a young quarterback as well not to have.
I mean, they have to have people out there selling tickets to. This season because of COVID though, right? So there just won't be anybody there at all.
That's what I mean. Yeah, COVID will help.
Okay, gotcha.
Will help that development. Yeah.
Okay,
I think in general, yeah, like when they have the big stadium, that might not be good because they'll have more opposing fans. Again, and everybody from LA is from someplace else, so we'll have, that won't. But for this year, they might have.
Yeah, it's not going to get any better, right? So it's like, I mean, until they actually win, they're not going to have any fans there at all, right? I mean, besides,
no, probably not. Again, because of San Diego, people might come up from San Diego, but they're so bitter that they left. They aren't going to come up from San Diego.
Right.
The best choice would be to go back to San Diego, but they aren't going to do that. So.
Right.
In part because this next team didn't go back to Los Angeles; they decided to go to Las Vegas.
Same issue with the Chargers, though. Again, I'm going to have to say Las Vegas, Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. It's one team. One time, and the nicknames haven't changed, so that can be consistent. The Raiders. I think Vegas is a great city for the Raiders, though, in terms of personality and glitter, glitz and glamour.
Far more likely to have opposing teams' fans come to games, though, I would think, as the destination city of Las Vegas, as opposed to.
That's true. And a lot of people.
There isn't clamoring for Oakland visits, right?
Aren't going to be native Las Vegans. Is that what it is? But yeah, I think some people might be coming from Oakland to watch them again because Oakland.
Sure, it's not that far, but
yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what again this year. It doesn't matter. They were worried about the stadium being done,
completed, right? And it doesn't matter, right? As long as the field's finished, right?
The field's finished.
Finished, and the walkway from the locker rooms.
The locker rooms are finished, I guess, too.
Yeah. Those three things must be done.
Press box, I guess. Press box, they probably would need to have done.
Yeah.
Rated.
So, returning Derek Carr then for his 7th season with the Raiders.
Yeah, Carr's last year was probably one of his best years. He had a very good year a couple years back before he got hurt, but he had over 70% completion percentage, which was, even in this day and age, it's pretty remarkable. Over 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, only 8 picks. So he has established himself as a quality, fairly high quality starter, at least average to above average, kind of like what Goff maybe can be. He's been around for several years now. He hasn't, played in the playoffs yet. He led the team to a playoff appearance, but of course he got injured in 2016 before that happened. But again, one of the questions that has been one of the things with Carr is that does Gruden trust him as a starter? Does he want to go with somebody else? And we kind of know what we can get. He's not super flashy, but he's solid. It seems like he's not the best, improviser when things break down. He's not great at playing from behind.
They have kind of revised like what they expected as his ceiling to maybe something more reasonable now too. So it may be less of the high expectation, not delivering to that level, but maybe
like in 2016 they thought maybe MVP candidate, which was I think above his head.
So it may take some of the pressure off of him then anyway.
Although there might be more pressure on him now, given that they brought in
Marcus Mariota now as a possible backup or challenger to that one spot. His sixth year out of coming from Tennessee then, right, for the Titans.
Mariota's still fairly young. I think he's younger. He's a couple years younger than, he's been in the league almost as long.
3 years younger than Carr,
yeah. 26. He won the Heisman in 2014.
Been kind of a solid player in the NFL, but not necessarily.
Yeah, he didn't quite live up to expectations. He was number 2 overall pick by the Titans. He was signed for a pretty high salary for a backup quarterback, 2 years for almost $18 million. So he's going to make, I think, $8.8 million this year. So that's almost, again, it's a lot of money for a backup quarterback. It's not that much money for a starter, given today's rates. But it seems like if you're going to sign somebody for that much money, you want to at least give them the opportunity to challenge for the starting role.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mariota's been fairly injury prone, however. He's kind of a running quarterback, a little bit like Kyler Murray type, and he's been hurt at least a couple games pretty much every year. He's been playing. He played injured quite a bit. So, and last year, of course, he was the starter at the beginning of the year for the Titans, and then was replaced by Ryan Tannehill, who led the team to the AFC Championship appearance, upsetting the Patriots, upsetting the Ravens, and then losing to the Chiefs. So,
but which pretty much showed that Mariota was no longer necessary.
Yeah, even though Mariota also led the Titans to a playoff victory over the Chiefs a couple of years ago. That horrible game in which Mariota caught his own touchdown pass or whatever it was, right?
Right.
It was. And then when they had that sack that was called not a sack and a strip, and Kelsey got hurt. Oh, that was a horrible second half.
Not a good game. Not a good memory. Why'd you bring that up?
I don't know. That's what I think of. That's what I think of when I think of Mariota, though. So maybe they think again. Maybe that's what Gruden thinks as well. He's somebody that can take down Kansas City. He's also again more of a running quarterback than Carr.
Right. Which is that different sort of style as a backup, I think is interesting, at least anyway, from a coach perspective, right?
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that could be a good. And I wonder what Gruden is supposedly this kind of quarterback guru. He sees himself.
Right.
Of course, he wins a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson as the quarterback.
Against his old team.
With Rich Gannon. Again, that was probably the worst quarterback matchup of any Super Bowl we've had. At least in the last 25 years, certainly.
It's got to be on the list, right?
Yeah, we can go back and look at all those quarterback matchups, but usually there's at least one Hall of Famer in there.
Right. Or at least has the potential for a Hall of Fame at the point that they were in their careers when they were in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I guess the 2000 that Ravens Giants Super Bowl? Probably not. With who would have been Giants quarterback? Kerry Collins maybe, and whoever. Who was the Ravens quarterback? Was it Testaverde then? Who was the quarterback? Kyle Bowler? I don't know. Somebody. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But
even like the Ravens later with Flacco or
Flacco.
Really,
it was the Flacco Kaepernick matchup. Was again probably not a matchup, but usually you have Brady on one side, or now Russell Wilson or Mahomes, and there's at least one Aaron Rodgers, Roethlisberger. There's going to Manning. There's one of those guys that is
right
usually
right. Well, then maybe in that same vein, then we have the third quarterback vying for a Raiders spot of Nathan Peterman,
an all-timer in a more ignominious way.
For now,
maybe again, Gruden likes Peterman. He likes his makeup.
He's the true quarterback guru.
He was. Peterman had a rough
be in the Super Bowl sometime, right?
Yeah, Peterman had a rough start to say the least. in Buffalo. He
Yeah,
started four
I think
games
you could say that.
in Buffalo over 2 years, 2017, 2018. 4 starts, 3 touchdowns, 12 picks, quarterback rating of 32.5 as a starter.
5 of those picks coming in a single game, right?
In a single game. There were several. I think he threw at least multiple pick sixes as well. But Gruden apparently likes him. He liked him coming out of Pitt. Another great late round quarterback coming out of Pitt was, of course, Tyler Palko from about 10,
Yeah, he got some starts.
He got some starts. He did. Tyler Thigpen also got some starts about that time.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway. But Tyler Palko was the guy who caused Joe Flacco to transfer from Pitt to Delaware.
Right.
If you remember that was one of the things I told him. It seems so long ago. We don't even remember those guys. Now that we have Mahomes,
We can kind of erase all of that history of
those horrible quarterbacks.
Not well known or not very great memories, right?
Matt Castle, Kyle Orton for a while, Brody Croyle. And even once Alex Smith got here, we had that locked down as at least a decent quarterback.
Right.
After several years of probably between Trent Green and Alex Smith,
It's
that
just
10-year period
wasteland of
you got
not great memories.
And those guys.
Some pretty tough seasons in there.
There's some tough seasons in there. But yeah, Peterman he's the clear 3.
But he has been on the Raiders roster now for the last 2 seasons too, so he has some at least history with the team.
Yeah, but you don't bring in Mariota and not at least give him the backup position. I think. Again, I think
this should be like the clearest that we've covered. In this part of the AFC West so far between the Chargers and Raiders. This is definitely more evident as to what the depth chart is, right?
Yes, although you could see if Carr struggles, Mariota's going to get in there.
Sure, but that's not what the depth chart is for game 1 of the season anyway.
No, it's definitely going to be Carr, Mariota, Peterman.
Right.
Peterman maybe practice squad. I don't know if he's eligible. He's been around a little while, so he might not be. But he's either kind of lingering on the edge of the roster if they keep 3.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be Carr, Mariota, Peterman. Do you think Carr is? Do you think Mariota could be as good as Carr in the right situation?
I think they're essentially the same tier of quarterback, though, right? So,
maybe like possibly top 20, maybe 15 to
between
25.
15 and 20, somewhere in that, right? Yeah,
15, 25.
Not at all the same style of quarterback, but I think they're going to fall into the same tier, right?
You think Mariota's still young enough to have some of that upside?
I wouldn't really expect a whole lot.
Only 2 years old than Mahomes.
Yeah, he's only 26, right? So, but no, I don't have that expectation, I guess, anyway. So
I think he's been hurt a lot too. I don't think he's quite this. I don't think he's quite the same player as he was coming out of college. His arm, I don't think is. I think Carr might have a stronger arm than Mariota, but Mariota's more mobile. I think Carr is the starter, but again, who knows if Gruden.
Decide one day, it's like, you know what, I'm starting over, and here's a new playbook, and
he's
Mariota's starting, and Peterman is also in the backfield at the same time for some reason.
It's one of those things where Gruden has that 10-year contract, and it looks like he's going to be around for a while.
He can do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants, and I think like the Raiders roster has been making some small, steady improvements, but I don't think it's
being not very good for an extended period of time.
That's true, and getting a lot of draft picks by trading Mark Cooper, trading Khalil Mack, people like that.
Right. With the reorganization,
I could see them.
And he did get rid of pretty much everybody that seemed like he would keep. Right.
I could see them again. I could see him trading Derek again. If there were a suitor for Derek Carr, I think Gruden would have traded him, but he's not. He probably makes quite a bit of money, and he's not a clear upgrade unless you have a really need for a starter.
So do you think Carr's number of games played could be bless him then if
I think it could
Gruden
bless.
could find a suitor for him during the season even?
I doubt that's, but I could see him souring on Carr and wanting to put Mariota and just to change things up if Carr struggles. And again, I don't. Again, it's Gruden. The Gruden Carr relationship has been kind of testy. It seems like. So
It does seem that way. Yeah.
I could see Mariota getting a few starts.
Do you think there's going to be issues with playing in Vegas then too? Like players going to be just like wrecked coming into the games?
It could be. Well, it again depends on what casinos are open right now. It depends on again the level of quarantine, the level of isolation that people are going to have. Where are they going to live? The players, are they going to stay in one of the hotels? Are they going to? The Chiefs have an option. There is going to be a team hotel that the Chiefs players can live at. A lot of the NFL teams have that. But in Vegas, the nice hotels, of course, are also attached to the casinos, and it's a little different than just staying at the Four Seasons and someplace for Four Seasons versus the MGM Grand or something. So Vegas. Who knows? Especially if you have younger players. It seems like the quarterback situation, Mariota, Carr, they've been around a little while. They're probably able to handle
Right.
the scrutiny and the maybe the pressures of Las Vegas. But
I guess like the shows and stuff aren't really going to be happening though, right? Like the bars aren't necessarily open, and
it's not going to be the same Vegas, and probably there's not going to be the same number of eyeballs on the team as there would be in a normal season, because this COVID situation has kind of become a distraction for that. But again, being in Las Vegas, that's where the gambling industry is. It seems like perhaps it would be a good time because the locals in Las Vegas are going to probably bet the Raiders. It would be a good time to bet against the Raiders in a lot of action. It seems like, although the sharps and stuff like that probably would anyway. But it seems like something that because the Vegas is the home. They're the home team. They might get some favorable odds, for them, and so it might be better if the Raiders are favored by 3. Really, it might be more of a pick 'em or maybe favored by 1 type of game rather than what it seems. So if I were a gambler and I lived in Vegas, I might it might be a good time to bet against the Raiders. Over under team totals, things like that. We can talk about the over under. I think that would be a good topic to go through all the over under.
Sure.
Team totals and see what we think over or under when it gets maybe a little closer to.
Definitely.
But over under number of starts for Carr. Do you think Carr starts the whole season? Do you think he's
been pretty durable.
Mm-hmm. He's only been injured a couple of times, but
I think this is probably his year to take a few games off, would be my guess. So I'd probably say somewhere around 12 games or so is what he's going to end up starting.
And Mariota, you think Mariota's going to get the other ones?
Most likely.
I was going to say 12 games for Carr, 4 for Mariota as well, but I don't want to pick the exact same because I'm going to go, instead of going up on Carr, I'm going to go down on Carr. I'm going to say 10 games for Carr, 6 for Mariota, because I think, not necessarily because he's hurt, but because I think Gruden will want to try to change things up at some point in the season. I don't think necessarily that would be the right move or a wise move, but judging again, I think he's going to want to mix things up. I think.
That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. Again, he probably now Carr's going to start all 16 games and be an MVP player, but we'll see.
Right.
But yeah. Do you think Peterman gets in a game this year? You think Peterman gets in a game?
I think no.
I think probably not either. But if he does get in a game, will he throw a pick?
Yes.
More likely than a touchdown? Is that
You?
Peterman.
You think differently?
Yeah. Deshaun Kaiser also was around last year as the backup for the Raiders. He's a free agent, so it's possible maybe they could bring him back.
NFL.com still had him on the roster.
Yeah. I think Deshaun Kaiser seems like a pretty kind of high upside guy still. He was a second-round pick just a few years ago.
He's already been around a little bit too, right? He was
bounced around. He's in Cleveland
and Green Bay.
Green Bay, and then the Raiders last year. So, somebody like The Rams even, I think.
But so Kaiser was the man out in bringing Mariota in, then I guess.
Mariota, yeah, Kaiser was out.
So
Yeah, that's odd that Peterman was out.
stuck around, right?
Peterman was, yeah, it's a bit odd, but
Yeah.
Peterman's older, I believe, than Kaiser.
I had them both at 24, but I don't know.
Both 24. Okay.
I mean, one of them is likely older than the other, but I don't know. It's not significantly anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Peterman's 26. Peterman's 26.
Yeah. Well, this is just wrong then.
At least according to Wikipedia, is 26. And Kaiser is 24. So, again, Kaiser was a higher draft pick, second-round pick. He has thrown 11 touchdowns, 24 interceptions in his career. Again, not a very good record as a starter or as a backup. But he played for Cleveland in 2017 as their starting quarterback. And that was a terrible team. So yeah. He also has a running. Again, he has he's a running threat, unlike Peterman. And I would it seems like Gruden kind of wants to keep Peterman around because he wants to prove how great he is, even though it seems I don't think Peterman.
How great Peterman is, or how great Gruden?
How great Gruden is. I think Gruden wants to prove that he can even turn this diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
And but again, maybe Kaiser's a big jerk. I don't know. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's I don't know. Maybe he's Jamarcus Russell type, doesn't even pay attention and
probably a money thing.
You heard that story about Jamarcus Russell, right? When the Raiders drafted him, they gave him videotapes to take home with them, and the tapes were blank a lot of the times because they didn't believe that he studied, and so they would give him these blank tapes, and he would claim that he watched what was not on the tape.
Right.
So he was not a.
So they're playing like mind games with him.
Yeah, at some point they thought he's not even paying attention. He's not even doing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So let's give him a blank.
They pulled like a sting operation basically to expose him for not. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that Kaiser's like that necessarily, but he has bounced around a lot, and part of it might be just bad luck. You get started with the Browns, and then the Packers were also in transition in 2018. They were getting rid of their. Getting rid of McCarthy that year. So, it's hard to say.
Right.
But, again, it's a little bit like what Josh Rosen is going through maybe too. So, it's hard to tell if it's, again, it could be a combination of both team and situation, but it's also, who knows?
Yeah.
But as I said, we think, Peterman's definitely number 3.
Yeah.
Distant third. And it's odd. It seems like I think both of us seem that it's odd that he's even on a roster.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of Gruden's ego.
Well, so let's move on to Denver, I guess, then, right? My least favorite team, the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Another interesting situation maybe in Denver.
Right. So they have a starter from last year that started the last 5 games of the 19 season, Drew Lock.
Mm-hmm.
Second
round pick out of Mizzou last year. The Broncos have had terrible luck drafting quarterbacks since Sean Elway has been their general manager. We have Brock Osweiler, Trevor Siemian. The list goes on. I'm trying to think of some of the other
guys that are supposed to be the next big quarterback drafted by the guy who knows quarterbacks because he was a great quarterback.
Yes. The only quarterback that he brought in was Peyton Manning, who was already established as
then went back to that right, and brought in Joe Flacco, and then that did not go well either.
In case Keenum didn't do as well. So Locke, it seems like, at least from the first few games, said he was 4-1. He said he was 4-1 as a starter. That one loss was, of course, to the Kansas City Chiefs in that snow game where he did not do very well. Oh, how can we forget Tim Tebow as a recent quarterback draft?
He's missing out on his minor league baseball season this year, I guess, too.
Broncos. Yeah.
Although they may have ended that experiment.
Yeah. Well, Jay Cutler, I guess, was a decent pick in 2006, but I don't know if he was decent or not. But they've not had anybody really since they've been trying to fill those Elway shoes. Jake, they had Orton and Plummer and people like that for a little while. But Drew Lock, 5 games as a starter, finally supplanted Flacco.
Well, it was because of injury, though, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Flacco, who was their other quarterback last year? Flacco got hurt, and it wasn't Locke who came in when Flacco got hurt.
Because Flacco went down pretty early in the season, like third
Yeah.
game, and then, somebody else was there for a few games.
I'm looking it up right now. Again, it's so, we should be able to remember how Case Keenum was the backup again for him. And then Kevin Hogan as well, I believe. So, yeah, they've had a kind of a quarterback
revolving door sort of thing.
Revolving door, merry-go-round, I was going to say, yeah. For a while, especially since Manning retired. But they seem like they like Locke. Again, they're hanging their hat on that. Locke was 4-1 as a starter. His stats weren't overwhelming, but in 5 games as a starter, he only threw for about a little over about 1,020 yards. It's about 200 yards a game in today's NFL. That's not so great.
No.
But again,
it's kind of like a largely running team.
It is a largely running team with Lindsey and Melvin Gordon.
But Denver, you'd think of as a quarterback team, but isn't necessarily that right now.
Yeah. So I guess they like Locke, but I think if Locke struggles, they're going to be looking for somebody next year. I would guess. What do you think?
Right, likely. I mean, I'm not sure that any of the players they have on the roster right now, like Jeff Driscoll, Mark Rippon's nephew,
Brett Rippon, yeah,
and then Riley Neal. I'm not sure if any of those guys are really vying for like the future of the Broncos quarterback.
No, I could say maybe you would say Jeff Driscoll might be a stopgap. He started a few games for the Bengals and the Lions last year when Stafford got hurt.
Right.
He's fairly mobile as well, but he's 27, so he's still fairly young. But he's again, I think established by this point a pretty much a backup, right? I don't think he's.
Fifth year in, you usually are at least making some starts, right? If you're going to make it, I think, right?
Yeah, he was replaced as the backup. It seems like by Chase Daniel in Detroit. So he was bumped by Chase Daniel, career backup Chase Daniel, who's played like 5 games in his career, but he's managed to really have a solid.
With somehow 6 different teams, right?
Yeah, former Chiefs backup and Saints backup. Again, another Mizzou quarterback like Drew Lock.
Right.
Also like Blaine Gabbert. None of these Missouri quarterbacks have really panned out, but Locke they like at least more than it seems like their other draft picks in the past. But yeah, again, maybe that also bringing in Driscoll as a backup, who's not really a threat to be a starter.
Right.
Another signal that either they believe Locke will succeed, or they desperately want him to succeed because they aren't going to mess with his head by bringing in
somebody that's going to supplant him right away.
Cam Newton or something like that, which would have been an upgrade, I'm sure. You get a little like what the Bears did with Trubisky, bringing Nick Foles is a better probably threat to start than Driscoll is, but Driscoll seems like a serviceable backup.
Right, and a lot of that's money difference too, right? So, I mean, if you're paying somebody a lot of money, you're expecting them to perform for you, right? Not sit on the bench.
Yeah. And then the number 3, 4 guys is Brett Rippon and Riley Neal. They are
Both
both
undrafted free agents.
free agents. Rippon, I think, has bounced around the practice squad.
He was on the practice squad last season with the Broncos.
Boise State quarterback, Mark Rippon's nephew.
Right.
Again, Mark Rippon was Super Bowl winning quarterback for Washington. 30 years ago, about now, almost. Riley Neal, new this year, graduate transfer to Vanderbilt from Ball State last year. He's tall. He's 6'6". He was the former backup he replaced former Chiefs backup Kyle Shermer as the Vanderbilt quarterback last year. So who knows what Riley Neal has, but he's probably just a camp body. But it's interesting that they brought in Neal, and maybe you would think since Kyle Shermer's dad, Pat Shermer, is the new offensive coordinator under Vic Fangio, they bring in Kyle Shermer as an option. Maybe
they will
get a little Chiefs info.
Maybe that's your out there pick for this this whole setup for today anyway, right?
Kyle Shermer to be brought in. I think Kyle Shermer, though, I think he was seen even as a big reach as a potential third quarterback for the Chiefs last year. But yeah. I think he was a favor because he was a coach's son.
Right.
Because Pat Shermer was the Giants coach at that point. But I think that's also maybe why they got rid of him this year, is because his dad is on the rival Broncos.
They don't need any question.
Chiefs. Yeah. Again, that's probably not true, but it's nice conspiracy to think about. But
this one again seems fairly clear, right? Locke 1, Driscoll 2.
Yeah, it's going to be Locke if he stays healthy. Again, he might.
Well, I mean, we're just talking about to start the season anyway, right?
To start the season, definitely Locke, then Driscoll. Yeah. What do you think of Rippon or Neal? Do you like?
I mean, my guess is that Rippon's been there for a year on the practice squad, so he probably sticks around on the practice squad.
I'm going to say they put in Neal because he's the new guy. They want to switch it up as number 3. So
Locke starts how many games this year?
Again, people are thinking Locke is going to be a solid starter. I guess it's only been a few games. Locke could turn into a solid starter.
And this would be his first real shot, full season.
He was a big Chiefs fan growing up. He's from Lee Summit, I believe.
Is that right?
Or Blue Springs, I think Lee Summit. And again, Driscoll was brought in to be the backup, not to really challenge for the starting job. But if Locke gets hurt, if Locke does struggle, they could put in Driscoll if they need a jump start. But people in the Broncos are kind of a sneaky wild card pick, it seems like, for some people this year, which I don't really see. I think the Raiders are probably more likely than the Raiders quarterback situation. I think both Mariota and Carr are better than Locke.
Yeah.
Especially at least this year as starters. But I'd say Locke will start 13 games.
I think I'll go lower. I'll say 11.
Okay. And I'll say Driscoll starts 3 games. So then you have 11 and 5. Okay. I think that's fair.
And then we'll wrap this up then with our probably most obviously clear hierarchy for quarterbacks then with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Although below Mahomes, it's a little bit murky, I'd say.
Well, I mean, they had the same sort of group last year, so I mean, it's the same returning group. So there's that whole if it's what you're dealing with, then why change it, right? So, I mean, as long as it doesn't hurt their cap space or something, then
yeah. So Mahomes definitely number 1. And then we have Henny and Moore both back, although Moore was brought in to replace Henny when Henny got hurt.
Right. After Mahomes was hurt.
After Mahomes was hurt. And, of course, Moore was brought in this year, just a couple of days ago, and he replaced Shea Patterson, the undrafted free agent out of Michigan.
Then they also picked up Jordan Ta'amu
from Ole Miss, and then he played in the XFL for St. Louis Battlehawks. And Ta'amu kind of replaced Kyle Shermer as the developmental quarterback. But now they have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. I think Ta'amu is clearly the backup of the future.
Right.
he seems to have a lot of upside, at least from what I've seen and what I've read. But again, the backup after Mahomes isn't. You hope you don't have to use him,
Right.
and so you'd think maybe if he does turn into something, they're gonna flip him, Garoppolo kind of thing or something.
Right. But this year, you're probably likely to be on the practice squad then, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs carried 3 quarterbacks, as they did last year at the end of the season. They had Henne and Moore and Mahomes.
Yeah.
Do you think Henne is the clear number 2?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, unless they have some money issue where Henny's getting paid more than Moore, and then
Even though Moore is the one who actually
but
played and stepped in and did a solid job.
Yeah.
But I guess they did sign Henne when they could have signed Moore first so I think it doesn't. They are prioritizing Henne, but it's a little bit odd, I think, that they signed Moore. But maybe this is a signal that, well, maybe you want 3. Maybe every team's going to carry 3.
It's likely that, I think you want 3 that you can have some kind of knowledge of, right? And then if you have a 4th that you can stash somewhere, then you're pretty set. Like no matter, your worst case scenario for a season, you're covered, right? At the quarterback position, then, right?
Yeah. So I'd say, Ta'amu is the backup of the future. But do you think that it's possible that both Henne and Moore are supplanted by Ta'amu by the end of the season as the backup?
By the end of the season?
Yeah.
Well, it's possible. I mean, if there's an injury, but I think he'll just be practice squad for the season.
Yeah. I think it's Henne and Moore are basically the same player, it seems like.
Right. Well, they've replaced each other in the past, right?
Yeah, and the Dolphins, I think Moore replaced Henne, and then I think maybe Henne came back and replaced Moore. I'm not even sure, but
Henne. Well, the Henne was there, so they're both 35 and had 13-year. This is their 13th NFL seasons, and Henne was started with Miami for 4 seasons. Then Moore followed him up for the next 7 after those 4. So.
And then Henne played.
And then Moore came in after Henne was injured with the Chiefs.
And Moore played for the Panthers. Yeah. I feel, I guess maybe because he has played with the Chiefs, I feel more comfortable with Moore as the second quarterback because I haven't seen Henne in action. But
he made some appearance, right, in before Moore did last year.
I don't think so.
Was he not in at all?
I think Henne got hurt before the season started, or
that's how it went?
He was on IR, and then they brought in Moore, and
but Henne was on the roster the year before too. Did he not?
Henne was on the roster for longer, and they had him at the beginning. I think Henne got hurt in the preseason, and then they brought.
That's how it went. Yeah, that's right.
And then they brought Henne back at the end of the season, but they still had Moore as their backup. So it seems like there's something that Reed likes about Henne. Maybe a little bit more than Moore, or maybe it's just a little bit of a loyalty thing because Henne got, had the unfortunate thing happen to him. He got injured. He didn't get a chance to play when Moore did. So they seem to be about the same player.
So do you think it's, obviously Mahomes 1, and then 2, 3, they pick one, or for the number 2 spot, they pick one of Henne and Moore, let the other one go, and then stash Ta'amu on the practice squad? Or do you think they keep all 4?
I think they keep all 4. Because why would you bring in Moore if you had Henne first?
Right.
Like why would because you've already, it's not like he's a new guy, you didn't really know about him, and then suddenly you
becomes enamored.
Yeah. So Henne, he did play 3 snaps for the Chiefs in 2018. He was 2 for 3, 29 yards. May have been a blow. I can't remember when he played, but it may have been a blowout game that they rested Mahomes. And career stats, in terms of games started, Henne has started 53 games in his career, 58 touchdowns, 63 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 75.5, almost 13,000 yards in his career. But so 53 games started. He is 18-35 as a starter. Again, not saying, he started out pretty solidly for Miami. He was 7-6 one year, 6-8 another year for Miami, and then he played for Jacksonville. Miami was not as good not as good a record, but kind of more picks than touchdowns. As I said, 18 and 35 as a starter. Matt Moore has started 32 games in his career, 16 and 16 as a starter, 49 touchdowns, 36 interceptions, 82.8 quarterback rating. So he has had a better career.
Similar start, so it's really it's not that different.
His record as a starter is a little bit better than.
Yeah, but that's more about the team than him, though, probably, right?
I guess he started Miami a few games, and he started for Carolina some games too.
He won his starts with at least one of the starts with Kansas City, right?
Yeah, but more touchdowns than picks. For more picks than touchdowns for Henne. Henne has more yards per game passing than Moore had. So it's hard to say. But
so we're going with roster all four, or three.
I think they rostered the three, and then I think they're going to have more than 53 on the roster this year. So I think they're going to roster the three, and then have Tom on the practice squad. That's my guess.
Number of starts for Mahomes.
I'm gonna say 16 because I don't want to jinx anything. So
yeah, I can't argue with that at all. So I have to say 16 also. This is gonna be the one this is the one time that I think we have to both agree.
Yeah, 16 starts
for good reason.
Yeah,
at the same time, right?
Yes, I agree. 16 for Mahomes. Again, Mahomes last year was hurt I'd say most of the season last year.
We had something, right? It wasn't. He wasn't fully healthy anyway, right?
He wasn't. Yeah, he was fully healthy to start the first game. He wasn't fully healthy to finish the first game against Jacksonville.
Right.
Might not have even been fully healthy the entire year
until about week 13 or something, right?
Maybe not. Yeah.
After their bye week was probably they had a late season.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe even the playoffs.
Well, they had essentially another bye week, right?
Yeah. So he was, and still last year he had 4,000 yards passing. So many.
Possibly another NFL MVP if he had played the whole season, maybe.
If he's healthy and plays the whole year, I think he's the favorite to win MVP. Even last year, he was 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 4,000 yards. His interception rate went down a lot last year. His touchdown rate went down as well, but I think that was because he was hurt and he wasn't able to quite do as much. But, I think 5,000 yards passing, if he's healthy the whole season, 40 touchdowns plus is probably expected.
Right, which seems crazy, right? Expected, not like hope for in wildest dreams scenario, right?
Yeah, he had 52 years ago, only 26 last year, but he was hurt a lot, and I think he was kind of the offense was not as strong last year as it would become in the playoffs. He was, a lot of people were hurt. Hill was hurt a lot last year.
Well, a lot of the offense struggles, I think, were aided by. As the season went on, aided by the defense's improvement.
That's true.
Being able to keep the defense, off the field some more and let the offense kind of control the ball too. And a lot of that changed as the defense improved.
Yeah, I think that's a danger sometimes though with Reed, in that he does not want to blow teams out, and he wants to keep teams. I guess he wants to control the ball. He kind of goes away. Sometimes the Chiefs have a very strong first half, and then the second half, it's not like the other team figures them out, but they let their foot off the gas.
Let up, right?
Yeah.
But if the defense is okay, they can get away with that more.
They can get away with it. I would, again, just because I'm a fan of Mahomes and I want to see the Chiefs score.
You want to see 50 touchdowns in a season from.
I would like them to just run it up and just see what they can do, especially now since they already have a Super Bowl. There's no real harm and just kind of letting and just
Just it was fun, right?
Yeah, and maybe that'll happen. I think maybe Reed will be a little less conservative. But yeah, in the playoffs, Mahomes kind of became the old Mahomes again, and he threw 10 touchdowns in 3 games in the playoffs. If he keeps up that rate, again, that's against playoff caliber opponents.
Right.
Get very strong playoff caliber opponents because he doesn't, they didn't even play a wild card team. If you extrapolate that to the whole season, that's 50 touchdowns. It's a little over 3 a game. So, that's hard to extrapolate. But he had one game that was not a great game in the playoffs too, and
right.
that was unusual. He did not play terribly well in the Super Bowl, at least for 3 quarters.
3 quarters. Yeah.
And
the quarter that mattered, he was pretty good.
Yeah, and so I think the Chiefs' schedule isn't that easy this year. It's certainly not as easy as some other AFC teams like the Ravens' schedule, but and I think the Chiefs. Again, I think he'll bounce back in terms of his stats. Maybe not quite. Who knows? Maybe not quite as high. Maybe higher. Who knows? But he's like the only one I think that's possible. So he could replicate that year.